My name is Carina Gardner, and I'm what you would call a practical designer. If you're ready to create a life that you love, become an incredible force for good, and generate income while pursuing your dreams, this is the podcast for you. Welcome to Make and Design. I think sales is difficult for artists and designers for a lot of reasons. I think there's some emotion involved, but I also think it's just because we feel like it is icky. And I think there are a lot of reasons for that, and I'm going to talk about some of those today and see if any of these resonate with you. And if you're feeling like it's difficult to get sales, it's probably a good chance that you believe some of these things. And so figuring out how to get past them is a pretty big deal, because if you can get past these things, then maybe you will feel like you can sell your art or your design work in a way that will actually bring you in income. Well, let's talk about first how sales is hard anyway for any profession, not just for designers and artists, although I think we have a special feeling of ickiness about it. As we think about sales, the number one person we think of is the used car salesman. And I don't know when this became like the thing that made us think about sales, but it certainly is the best example of, first of all, something that we think about, and second of all, of what we think of in terms of sales. It's like this yicky product that's like, we all know a used car, like especially a really old one, isn't going to be so great. If you've ever watched Matilda, it's, they're using like, is it Danny DeVito? He's like hot gluing the bumper on and all this other stuff, like to create these amazing lemons. So that's what we think of. And so because of that, we've got this, this feeling already about sales around in our brain, and it makes it so that sales feels really, really hard. There's an amazing book called To Sell is Human by Dan Pink. And I think that if you go read that, it's going to help you get past some of the shifts. He talks about used car salesmen, and then he talks about the way that we sell as humans. And when we think about it, one of the reasons that Instagram and social media is so popular is because yes, there are people and influencers who have made a living off of sponsoring products, but most of us who are not making maybe sponsored posts or that kind of thing, because we're not necessarily influencers, we are constantly seeing things on social media and sending it to the people we love. So I was just thinking about this because I just did this. I was on Instagram and I saw this great post and I forwarded it over to my friends Nikki and Natalie. And then there was another post that was just really funny about like going back to school, and I sent it over to my two sisters. I have three sisters, but I have an Instagram with like two of them. And so it was just so funny because what I was doing is basically saying, hey, go look at this. I think it's funny and I think you'll enjoy it too. Essentially, I'm selling them on watching this thing. Now, there's no exchange financially. There's no money exchange. It's just like stuff that we all can relate on, right? And at the end of the day, that's really what sales was always meant to be. And it is for most industries. Think about when you are, I'm trying to think of like a really mundane product. Okay. Maybe super mundane, dishwashing. So every week you have to fill up your dishwasher, if you have a dishwasher, with a liquid that will clean it. Now, I don't know that Cascade or any of the other brands is like, they're not like directly selling to you, right? Like you walk into a grocery store and you see the aisle and you see like 10 brands of dishwashing liquid and you just choose one. Now, maybe you choose one based on smell. Maybe you choose one based on the brand, which is marketing, right? Or sales. Maybe you choose one based on price, right? But like at the end of the day, you're being sold to. And we don't feel yicky about that. Why don't we feel yicky about it? It's because we need it, right? Like someone has to provide this dishwashing liquid. So please, please, please have this dishwashing liquid available so that I can actually use it for my dishwasher because I need it. And a lot of times, especially as artists and designers and creatives, we sometimes don't think that the product we have is like a need. How many of you feel that way? because the product is not like dishwashing liquid and it's like this like super functional thing, we think that people can live without it. And so because of that, we think, well, this is not a necessary thing. So it feels more salesy than buying dishwashing liquid. What if you changed your mindset and you shifted, started thinking about your artwork or your design work as dishwashing liquid? AKA, it's a thing that someone is looking for and they just really want to buy it, but you haven't provided it. You haven't put it on the aisle at the grocery store. And so people are frustrated because they don't have it. That is what I'm talking about in terms of like making a real shift away from sales feeling hard to being just like, I have this thing and I know you need it. And so I'm going to make it available to you. That is the shift from being someone who's super salesy and used car salesman like versus just providing something that people actually need and that they're looking for. And that is a really good way to feel. Well, so let's talk a little bit about, this other thing that I keep seeing and I'm kind of bugged with, and that is how artists and creatives in general feel like they shouldn't be paid for their art. How many of you feel that way? Like you make this beautiful art piece, you spent all this time on it, or you've made a really beautiful sticker sheet or product, and then you feel like, gosh, dang it, that was so fun. I enjoyed that so much. I don't think I should be paid for it. And then you might be like, well, when you say it that way, Carina, you're right. I should be paid for it. But how many of us feel that way at the beginning or as we're getting started? We're like, well, I just enjoyed making that, so no one should have to pay for it, which is such a fallacy in thinking because you've not put any value in the thing that you made. If anything, the stuff that we love doing should be the main stuff we're doing every day, and we should be getting paid for it. So let me put this in terms of artists that you would know. Claude Monet had a very deep affection for his Water Lilies series, and his paintings are very expensive, right? He spent many years painting these scenes in his garden at Giverny. I don't know how to say that, you guys, so sorry if I said that wrong, and considered them some of his most personal and significant work, as in he really enjoyed painting them, you guys. And he sold them for a lot of money, all right? So he felt just fine selling his work for a lot of money. How about Pablo Picasso? So Picasso often spoke highly of his painting, and I'm going to butcher this, Guernica or Guernica, considering it one of his most important works. It was created in response to the bombing at the Bastogne during the Spanish Civil War. And he felt this painting was a powerful political statement and a profound expression of his feelings about war and suffering. And guys, he sold it for money, okay? So just because it was something that was powerful, it was political, that it was his own expression, doesn't mean that it wasn't worth money. If anything, it was probably worth more money because of it. How about Georgia O'Keeffe? So O'Keeffe expressed a special connection to her painting Jimson Weed, White Flower No. 1. She was particularly proud of how she had captured the beauty and the simplicity of that flower. And this piece became one of her most famous and recognizable works, aka she sold it, you guys. And so this whole idea that sales feels icky has a lot to do with our own feelings of being sold to, right? So most of us have had an experience where someone has tried to sell us something and we just didn't want it. Or I've seen this, there's a cognitive dissonance in terms of like we want it, but we can't afford it. So we feel like it's icky, right? How are you ever going to sell your own artwork, your own design work, your own stuff if you don't get rid of some of those things? If you don't get rid of some of those feelings, because I promise you part of the wall that you've built for yourself where you don't want to be sold to is affecting your own work because you're not open, because you're not agreeable. And I've seen this over and over again. The moment someone's like open and they're just like, you know what, I'm open to whatever is coming to me, and I'm open to my artwork being worthwhile and amazing, and someone really wants it, they want to spend the money on it, like they want it on their wall, or they want that sticker sheet, or they want that thing, then it's much easier to sell because it feels like something that we're doing. One of the other things I always tell my designers is, especially social media, I think people feel like, oh, I'm selling. Just change it. Be educational. The more educational you are about your design work, showing people your design, showing people like what you're making, how it's bringing you joy, giving them a little insight into what you're doing, it's really, at that point, it's not about selling, right? It's about educating and sharing. And I think that whether you know it or not, even though you're doing education and sharing, you're actually selling. Like that whole time, you're selling. You're selling what you do, you're selling your personality, you're selling your process, you're selling how beautiful your work is. But I think the twist on that is by saying, you know what, I'm going to share and I'm going to give us some education. This is how I started my YouTube channel, was just literally sharing products from Cartabella as we started that company. We're just sharing the products. Well, technically that's selling, right? We're showing the new paper lines. We're showing how we're using the paper lines. We're showing what to make with the paper lines. That's technically educational, but that's where education and sales actually meet. And you're doing the same thing, or you should be doing the same thing. So if you're selling sewing patterns, you're showing how to use the sewing patterns. You're showing and sharing. You're giving education on it so that people won't make mistake with your patterns, right? If you are selling SVG files, you're showing people how to use it. You're showing people how to cut it. You're giving them education so that they won't make mistakes, so they can make it really cool. You're showing how you're adding, inks to it, dyes to it, whatever cool things. You're showing how to use vinyl if someone's never used it before. And that's really education. Education and sharing is literally selling. We're just not using that language. And if you can think in your head, you know what, this is education, this is sharing. If selling is too hard of a word for you, that's okay. You can do that. And by sharing and giving education, you're letting people into your world. And there is a certain amount of vulnerability, especially as you start building a brand. You guys know especially my Design Suite members, like the first year I'm like, do not be doing all these marketing activities because it's not helpful, because you're not to a place where your products are in a place where they are good enough that you should be doing that marketing piece. But once you get past that first year and you're starting to build a brand, then it really is about selling that brand. And what can you do? You can share and you can give education. And I think that feels a lot safer to those of us who are designers and artists. It's also one of the reasons that I teach what I do. So if you come into a design boot camp on day one, I tell you how I got started. And one of the reasons that we teach, especially online platforms, is because the selling piece just simply feels easier. People are purchasing from a website, not directly from you. It has a different feel to it. And I find that it's a really easy, initial step into the sales world. It doesn't even feel like you're selling, which is really beautiful, because instead you're working on your SEO and you're thinking about, titles and keywords and creating products that people are really going to find usable. But all you're doing is creating products that can sell. It just doesn't feel like that used carsman kind of feeling, right? Which of course none of us really want. And that's how we kind of avoid some of those ickiness. So I would say there are a few things here. Number one is, if you resonated with any of the things I said, either positively or negatively, really explore that. Kind of decide how you're feeling about it and how you either need to get over or really dig into some of the feelings that you have about those things. The second thing is to educate and share. I think education and sharing are two of the best ways that we can actually be selling without really selling. And when I'm sharing things, especially my businesses, it's like, it's like, this is just my regular life. I'm just telling you exactly what's happening here. When I'm educating and I'm teaching you stuff, and, we teach a lot of free stuff here just on this podcast. We teach more in our Design Your Life or in any of our summits. A lot of times it's just because it's education. Here's what I'm doing. I'm educating you on what we're seeing, and this is how it's going to impact your creative life. Last but not least is I would love for you to go watch or read that book, To Sell is Human. I think I actually listened to it the first time, and then I have the book as well by Dan Pink. I think it will really help you kind of switch your mindset or have a shift about how what we do in our daily lives, what we share with other people is actually selling. Every single little bit of it. How many, like I started down the example of sending some stuff to my sisters and to my two of my friends, but like how many times have I'll go find this really, like on Instagram, I'll see something. I'll be like, oh, this is such a cool curling iron. And what do? I immediately forward it to my sisters. And I'm like, has either one of you used this? It's the exchange of information. If they haven't used it and I buy it and I tell them I love it, what am I doing? I'm selling it to them. Without knowing it, I am selling the thing that I've done to them. This is part of being human. And he really digs into that. And as artists and designers who are making things that we love and we're really enjoying it, it's still worth it. It still has value. Just because we enjoyed it doesn't make it less valuable. If anything, it should make it more valuable. So kind of figuring out the best way to deal with that in your mind or heart. Maybe just by simply listening to this, you're like, you know what? I do value the stuff that I'm making, and I am going to put a price tag on it, and I am going to sell it because, hey, it's worth it. It's worthwhile, and someone's going to buy it. All right, guys, you guys are so awesome, and I hope you've been enjoying our podcast. I have been kind of leaning into talking to you guys more, doing less interviews, and a lot of that is just because there's a lot I want to say and a lot I want to educate you guys on. So if you've been enjoying that, I would love for you to leave us a review. I was just looking at our podcast reviews and thinking, oh, we need more of those. So here's my sell to you. Please leave us a review so I can continue to make you guys free podcast episodes, because reviews are the lifeblood of a free podcast, and it would just help me out so much. Even if all you do is write the words, I love this podcast, I read them. And so I really appreciate you. And I hope that you're getting a lot of education out of this podcast. So thanks so much, you guys, and I'll see you soon.
Did you know you have access to more free design content, die cut files, and sewing patterns? Join our exclusive VIP group for free by going to designsweetcourses.com/free.